What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the show. We are your hosts, Chase and Myles, and welcome back to At the Lucky Duck. Myles, who do we have on today?
Today we have on Tom.
Welcome, Tom.
Hey,
And the
how's it
reason
going?
I don't have a long intro is because I don't actually know Tom.
Yep.
But today we're going to learn probably some stuff about him.
Yeah, probably. You know, I kind of like that, being an unknown quantity.
Cool.
You know, hard to pin down.
Mystery man.
Yeah, man of many hats, as I like to say.
Yes. When you're talking, just get up a little bit closer to the mic so we our lovely guests at home can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, welcome. You, I met you through Jess, who was on the podcast this season, earlier in the season.
Yep.
And found out you're a really cool dude. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to have you on, learn a little bit more about you. Yeah, Myles usually has like a longer intro. He like goes into some facts and
I usually
details,
research the guests. I go to your house, I break in, and stay there during the night, watch you sleep, figure out what your patterns are.
Yeah.
And I kind of come up with this manifesto of who you are.
Is it weird that I'd be into that, or
No, it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
That's why.
Yeah. Voyeurism.
I wish I had known that before.
Yeah, you could have added that into the intro.
But I'd be careful breaking into my house. You know, there's some rough characters there.
All right. Good to know.
I live in a sober living house, so that's why
Gotcha.
I say that.
So what does that mean exactly?
So basically it's a group housing situation where you know, we all live together and stay sober. You know, there's different iterations of it, different levels of control. I'm probably at like one of the lower levels. You know, whereas basically the only requirement is stay sober and go to a house meeting once a week, do a chore. I think those are the three main things. So, you know, and it's, you know, it's just a means to A, maintain sobriety, and B, maintain accountability in the long term. So,
Well, on that note, let's give a good cheers to start off the episode.
cheers.
We are drinking a kind of like a virgin version of the Tequila Sunrise. It's got some sparkling water in there too.
Pretty good.
A little extra pop.
I like it.
So how did you find yourself in that situation?
Man, years of wild shit, constantly, like wild partying, and you know, it finally came to a head. This is actually my second stint in sobriety. I was in like for a year and a half, about 2014 through 2016. Yeah, so basically I started partying real young, and you know, it was pretty accepted, like at least in my circle of friends. Also lived in close proximity to Red Rocks all my life, so that was kind of our weekend thing, is we'd go up to Red Rocks, get alcohol, get drugs, and you know, do that. And you know, I always kind of prided myself on being the party guy, and you know, it was a fun party until it wasn't. So yeah, I had a brief stint in sobriety, and then around April 18th, 2018 was the beginning of the end. That was when I got my second DUI. And, you know, that's when the legal troubles started and some enforced sobriety. And I wasn't doing very good at it, and just had one real bad relapse. And, you know, that was a big wake-up call. So, yeah, basically I was messing up on probation, so I had an alcohol ankle monitor, all this, you know, daily UAs, I think, or, you know, something like that. And one day I was just with a friend who was moving to Australia. He gave me like some crazy liquid benzo before that he got off the Silk Road, and
Oh shit.
I blacked out for a day and a half. Came to in front of my freezer, chugging about a bottle of Crown Royal, and still had my ankle monitor on and all that. And
Whoa.
it was just a huge wake up call, and I realized that I needed to change, and then I needed help, and I'd actually been in the house that I'm at before, and so I knew where to go, and less than a month later I moved in there, and shit. Now, so that was July 2019, and so a little bit over 3 years now.
Wow, congrats, man.
Yeah.
That's a great accomplishment because you hear all there's a lot of stories like that out there, and I think a lot of people describe as you have how tough that is to like come to that realization. Some people have it in the example of what you presented, this like this wake up call, and some people either go a little deeper than that, and it's a great thing that you're able to overcome that. What is a alcohol ankle bracelet
It's called
monitor?
Scram. I think it's an acronym for something, but basically what it is, it's kind of a lot like your heart rate monitor on your Apple Watch or smartwatch. So it's on your ankle. There's a metal piece right up against your skin, and it tests your sweat for the presence of alcohol.
No
Whoa.
shit.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that existed.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't either.
Yeah.
Wow.
If don't drink and drive, and then continue to
Yeah.
drink, and you won't have to figure that
Yeah.
figure that out. That I figured that one out the hard way.
Hmm.
So,
Huh.
it's not typically something people run into in everyday life.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think that was a technology that existed out there.
It
So
sure is.
it's interesting. Huh.
It's yeah, it's very. I'm sure you've seen them before if you've ever seen somebody with an ankle monitor,
Mm-hmm.
but you probably thought it was like a home monitoring system or
Yeah.
something like that. But yeah, they're out there, and they're not too much fun. Cost a lot of money on top of all your court fees and all that. So
Yeah, I bet that whole process was pretty financially burdensome.
yeah, it really is. But I credit that like hardship and everything for actually giving me the willingness to um, make changes in my life. And that's pretty common theme for people in recovery. You gotta hit the bottom hard before you
Hmm.
really commit yourself to that. And I would say any life changing pursuit, like completely radical change of course in your life, usually there has to be some sort of major upheaval in your life to
Hmm.
facilitate the willingness to make wholesale changes.
Right, like a stimulus that really kicks you off to realize you need to change. So what is it like being in a community of people who are trying to kick the old drug problem?
There's never a dull moment,
Yeah.
except in the meetings when people like talk really for a long time, and
Yeah.
that's a side note. It's interesting, because the thing about like addiction and recovery and being an addict alcoholic is, you get to a point where you feel like you're the only person in the world that feels like this, and then
Mm.
you're introduced to a community who all felt like that at one point or another, and it's a sense of acceptance that you know is rare to find just anywhere in life. As soon as you walk through those doors, you have a community of people that are there to support you, even without knowing you. A big thing in recovery is the idiom like, "We'll love you until you love yourself. Learn to love yourself."
Mm.
And that is the truth. So, and it's cool because you right off the bat have a commonality with every single person in this room, in any given room. Whether they're an alcoholic, a dope fiend, a tweaker. You've all seen that dark place, and are trying to work your way through it. So there's that common thread that really unites us all. Plus, it's great because it's one of the few places where I can have an extremely dark sense of humor, and it's well received by most everybody. So, you know, you've never heard so many, jokes about like wanting to kill yourself or trying to kill yourself or losing your family and, being homeless. Everybody jokes about it, and it's a cool cathartic thing that, I think, kind of helps everybody heal. So,
Right.
Are most people there by choice?
um, yeah, for the most part. Well, I do like 12-step recovery. So, in those rooms, pretty much everybody's there by choice. Some people, it's a legal requirement, or their family, wants them to be there, but they don't usually last too long. The ones that stay, it's by choice. Sober living, it's another, kind of a mixed bag. But yeah. So most everybody's there by choice, and the ones that aren't usually don't make it. So
Right.
yeah.
But that helps. Everyone's really in it, right? I mean, it's not like they're there just because they have to. It's really people who want to be around other people who have been through that situation.
Yeah. At least for for the most part, even if people that aren't exactly working like a program or doing very well, it's something that breaks up that isolation. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
And how long do people usually stay in a community like that?
Well, it really depends. You got, as people gain more time, they're more likely to stay, right? So you'll know a lot of people temporarily, for, month, 2, 3, and then there's people that are, in the intermediary, kind of like me, just over 3 years. And then I know people that have, 35, 40 years of sobriety. So there's a lot of people that stick around with it for a long time.
Is there any like limits as to how long you're allowed to stay? No.
No, not at all.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you just one day you just become an old timer, and that's what they'll call you. But it's a term of endearment, and I think as it should be, because it really is a demonstration of why you should have hope for the future. Which is huge in the recovery community, but I think just generally in life, a little glimpse of hope will go a long way.
Yeah.
So.
So you planning to so you've been in for 3 years?
Yes, I have.
What's your plans? Are you thinking of staying or
No, I hate it. Not. It's just it's a grueling thing, and
yeah, the parties are lame probably.
yeah, no, well,
I'm
the
fucking with you.
parties are pretty wild because once you've partied enough, it gets wild. Like our 4th of July parties are insane. We're throwing mortars into the storm drains and everything,
Nice.
and might be some gunplay. Who knows?
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
it's fun for a while, but I ran the house for quite some time, so like I took on way too much responsibility for too long, got burnt out that way. And B, I live with 8 other people, and that's really rough.
It's a lot of roommates.
Yes, it's a lot of roommates.
Yeah.
A lot of different personalities, and just by nature of living with somebody, shit comes up, and you just have a lot of opportunities for shit to come up. So, but no, I'm holding on for just a few more months, and then I have an idea of my next roommate. She's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, we're kind of playing it by ear until we decide to, take the leap and move in together. But
That's good.
Yeah. No, I'm extremely lucky in that way. Uh, right at the end of last year, beginning of this year, I was supposed to move in with my best friend, and that all fell through. Primarily because we worked together, and I got fired. And
Oof. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and it wasn't it wasn't actually like I can say this certainly like anything to do with me.
Hmm.
There were aspects, but they had a history of really fucking with people and
Ooh.
until they quit. And they
It's like a toxic
yeah,
coworker
Yeah, right.
situation.
yeah, well, it was a toxic management situation,
Oh
and
yeah.
you know, like I mean, unfortunately or luckily, depending on how you look at it, I know how to play those games. So like,
Hmm.
because I grew up real ADHD and stuff like that, and when they really started messing with me over things like timeliness and organization, and I'm like, all right, well, let's do some ADA stuff, and
Yeah.
it ended up, turning into an equal employment opportunity commission case, and I won. So yeah,
Nice. Oh.
yeah,
Hmm.
they, you know, but it was unfortunate because I lost my best friend. But they say when one door closes, another one opens, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I had been in a different, you know, things had gone down differently. I might not be where I'm at, and I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. So.
Awesome.
Well, fairly happy.
Yeah. You're almost to where you want to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
personal life is coming together. A little bit of work needs to be done on the professional side of things.
Sure.
So, but that's just a result of a not even a misspent youth, a misspent life.
Hmm.
But I'm actually very grateful for all that because it gives you a lot of perspective. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you're at a certain point, you've been around the block and you know how to handle yourself. So,
Yeah.
and especially with as much adversity as I've faced,
Uh-huh.
and when we had dinner the other night, I'd mentioned I'd just gotten laid off, and right now I'm doing material handling, which is basically driving big forklifts and doing manual labor, and you know, um, it's a good catalyst for me to, you know, take steps to improving my professional life. So,
Right. Well, it sounded like you had your hands full with. You said you were running the house that you're living in.
yeah.
What exactly does that mean? Like, what are the
Yeah.
responsibilities with
Uh,
that?
keep everybody in line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, shit. So there's a lot of turnover there. So, you're basically the example setter
Hmm.
in many ways. You lead the meetings. You liaise between the larger organization, which is like chapter, state.
Hmm.
So I'm in an Oxford house, which is like a nonprofit grouping of sober living. So, um, but yeah, each house has its own autonomy, but we also have chapters and state associations, and so I would liaise with them. I'd make sure my treasurer was, doing the books right. You know, just basically anything that needed to be done. No, traditionally there's defined roles, but there there was a lot of turnover, so I just ended up doing a lot of things,
Hmm.
and so I would be the treasurer. I would write all the
Yeah.
checks. I would check everybody's chores, make sure they were done. You
So
know,
everybody's got like a pull their own weight type of
yeah,
situation when
yeah,
it comes to that.
ideally, and yeah, it's been tough even trying to, like, once giving up that position, like trying to get people to pull their own weight. So
Yeah. So is there like a current head of the house right now
yeah,
that took
there
over?
is there
Yeah.
is, but more often than not, he calls me to figure out what to do in
Yeah.
situations, and when things go down, I'm usually the first one to get the call. So,
Uh,
um, but it's lessening over time where, well, I'm um, you know, not doing as much each week, which is good. Plus, it helps. I'm not usually there.
hmm.
Now that I'm with Jess, I prefer to spend my time over there, and
Yeah.
vice versa. So I'm not like uber present there. So I think that's helped me kind of shy away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
And help the house get ready for me to transition out. You
Who's
know.
who's the who's the person with the longest tenure there?
Um, My buddy Andy.
Nice. Shout out to Andy.
Shout out Andy. He will never figure out how to consume this podcast. So he's like 65,
Okay.
technologically illiterate. Still rocking the flip phone. Doesn't know how to text. You
Wow.
know.
Good for him.
But he's a real good guy.
Yeah. How long has he been there?
About coming up on 4 years now.
Nice.
A little over 3.5. So it's me and him that have been there the
Top
longest.
dogs.
Uh,
You're like, I could take him if I needed to.
oh yeah, well he's very old. He's scrappy for an old guy though.
Yeah.
He's he cracks me up. Like he's 65. He kind of but he's in shape 65. So we kind of make fun of him for looking like Iggy Pop. He has real short cut off jorts. Usually like a belly shirt, cut off belly shirt. T-shirt.
Oh, there you go.
He's a character for sure.
Sounds fun.
But he's my buddy. Like if I ever need go to for doing labor around the house, that's who is the man. He's always down to mow the lawn, water the yard,
Nice.
fix things. So
That's kind of funny that he's your go-to guy. He's like 65 years old.
yeah. Well, he's been stable for a long time with his sobriety.
Yeah, okay. So you can he's reliable.
Yeah, he's reliable, and he's old school. So getting him to our lawnmower broke down. Just let us borrow hers because she doesn't use it. But with that, it hadn't been run in a long time. He's the guy I could trust to hey, know how to, and B, do it. Change the oil, sharpen the blades, tighten up everything, make sure it's in good shape so we don't fuck it up,
Yeah.
type thing. So, I mean, it's just little things like that. And, when it's in a big house like that, everybody kind of has their niche, roles. So.
He's like the old grandpa that you go to that knows how to fix everything, and he's like always gonna be able to pull through for you.
Exactly.
I need one of those.
Yeah, me.
Hey, you can use me.
I need an Andy.
You can use me. I'll be your Andy.
Fair enough.
So
Nice. Well,
So then, once you're getting out of there, you said you want to work a bit on your professional life.
absolutely.
What are you thinking?
I just genuinely need to get out of manual labor. I've been doing it all my life, and my body's kind of reflecting that. I'm thinking IT, just in some capacity, whether it be coding, security, or whatnot. I'm actually kind of leaning more towards the network infrastructure end, just because I've got a lot of electrical experience and all that. So I mean, running cables. So
Totally.
I would have some overlap experience there, and then that could be something to do while I move into a less physical role, or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Yeah, that really makes sense because in college I majored in computer science, and a lot of the guys who were doing computer engineering, which took a lot of similar classes, also were dual majoring in electrical engineering. So it really makes sense how those kind of overlap. So I think that's a good plan.
Yeah, and once I do something less physically taxing, I can commit to other things beyond that, because I won't be exhausted when I get home, and plus things tend to snowball when they're coming together. So one good decision leads into another, as long as you're doing your maintenance, you can achieve a lot of cool things. So. Sucks that I'm 33 and doing that now, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm just happy that I have the potential to change.
I think it's doable. Actually, I have a lot of coworkers and guys I went to school with who were in their 30s, and they're software engineers now, and their life's completely different than what it was before. So I think it's totally doable.
Exactly, and the reason I picked IT is I was really into computers when I was younger. This was early internet days. I started, when I was in middle
Ask Jeeves.
school. Yeah, yeah. Well, this was like
Even before that.
dial-up AOL, type stuff. Modem sound internet days.
Yep.
I started, learning a little bit about doing HTML, and then in high school I was in networking classes and stuff like that. So I have had that interest before. Um, yeah, I did actually go to college for a while, but it was for something completely different. So,
Women's
but
studies, probably, right?
Did you say women's studies?
Yeah, women's studies.
uh,
Probably
oh
one of
my
them
God,
that ends in studies.
one of the worst experiences of my college career was disagreeing with a professor in a gender in the economy class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've never been more ganged up in my life. No, so I was a history major.
Yeah.
Cool.
And still love it. Still something I'm passionate about, but um, doesn't really seem like there's a feasible career path outside of academia that I could really accomplish anything with.
Yeah, it does sort of lend itself to kind of like a hobby type of thing. Like a lot of history buffs, they do it for the love of it, not to really make a whole lot of money out of it.
Yeah, it would
Totally.
be. It's still one of my hobbies. Like I still just like going down rabbit holes and researching
Oh yeah.
different aspects. I'll watch documentaries and then I spend 3 hours just looking at stuff and going on tangent after tangent after tangent. But yeah. So, but feeling satisfied after. So.
What Miles, if you could, we'll go back to the history thing, but I wanted to circle back before we move on. What is the one thing or one sector within computer science that you would encourage people who are interested in that field to pursue? There's so many different things. There's like networking, there's development, there's product management,
Right.
architecture. Like do you think, and keep in mind, like when you're thinking about this, obviously you don't want to work 60, 80 hours a week doing this. So what is keeping in like life work balance in mind, and also what's hot in the industry, what has longevity, what would
Yeah.
you recommend somebody to pursue?
Well, development's kind of the most general field in computer IT stuff, because you can really kind of apply it to anything once you understand how. I mean, if you can become a programmer and write some code, that's kind of the basic thing you need to really do anything in IT, whether it's writing Bash scripts, Python, Java, whatever it is, and then you can kind of specialize from there. So if you're interested in networking, for instance, you'd want to learn a lot about how networks work, how they were developed, and how they work now.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's one thing in particular that is. I mean, people talk about security, cybersecurity is really important. There's a huge need there, but in general, I think in IT, there's always more people who are needed.
Yeah.
And so, but I think learning how to program things is essential, really, to any of those jobs. And it's really easy if you have time to just sit down and actually understand what it's actually doing, understanding how a computer works, and then, like you said, you're interested in networking. I mean, networks can be super simple if you study them, but they can be super complex in a large infrastructure, and that's what they need people to actually go work on, is the complex stuff. So it's it's a hard thing to answer, I guess.
Yeah.
Good question.
I hear
Well,
there's just so
and I've been
much,
running
right?
into that a lot as I've been researching, and that's kind of one of the bedevilments. I want to break into this, but there's a lot of different avenues and paths, you can take, CompTIA, CompTIA Plus, or, Python,
Totally.
and, but luckily there's a lot of boot camps and stuff. So, actually this is, fortuitous, because, that, I might be able to pick your brain a little bit more, some
100%.
other point, just to figure out some different pathways to take. Because, what I have found is that there are a ton of like boot camps and everything for you to get your initial certifications, and then you can, kind of carry from there. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the field of IT is so general because I mean, a long time ago, it kind of meant like some guys who were sitting in a room, they were sysadmins and they ran some servers for the company who had maybe like a small website, or they just had some batch processing that they did at their company, like at a bank or something. And now it's like every company pretty much is doing some form of IT, whether it's working with Amazon, AWS to you know run their website or their application, or they're actually doing it themselves. So it's in all of our lives, and you really have to. You can be kind of generic about it, learn some different skills that will kind of set you off into a career, and then kind of specialize from there. So
Yeah. There's like for instance in the company I work for, there's a guy that's like a help desk specialist. So he's taking care of like email issues and things that, or delegating to other people who are specialized. And then you have somebody that's solely working on network stuff, and then there's a guy that's working on point of sale for like our restaurants and stuff. So there's like, and just in our
Right.
IT department, there's like 3 or 4 different specialties. It's
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
exactly.
yeah,
And they're kind of in high demand right now,
Mhm.
like for some really good people. And I think network security comes to mind, when I think of like something that's in super high demand,
Yeah,
something that's really high paying too.
very high paying, yeah.
Yeah.
When I think about the people I know who I've found out what their salaries are, what their compensation package is, the people in security are the highest paid that I know of. The lowest in their career, highest paid. I mean, obviously you can have a software architect who makes 300, 400K a year, and he was going in my path. But the guys who are going into cybersecurity or some kind of security field, and they're much younger in their career, are making much more than the guys who might be in the other. You have mobile development, you have front end web development, back end, anything like that. So
Crazy.
it's a
I mean,
lot.
that's
It's
where
a
the
lot.
world's
there's so
headed.
many, yeah.
That's what's been like driving me crazy, and it's almost inhibited me like starting, just because it's like
Seems
it
overwhelming.
seems daunting, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know I can do it. I've figured out harder things. So.
Totally. And to your point, I mean, there's plenty of free resources out there that are really good. Like I know MIT has an open course, like a whole course that's free online, right? That will just get you into the basics of programming.
Yeah.
Right.
And Khan Academy is a big one, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, actually, a lot of the Ivy League schools, or just big tech schools like MIT, have released most of their documents that they provide in their classes. So you could actually, I think, take an entire computer science degree if you wanted to, outside of the school. You're not getting credits for it, so you're not going to end up with a degree, but you get all of the same resources as the guys who are paying thousands and thousands of dollars are getting, and learning those things yourselves. Because in IT, you don't need a degree. I mean, it's
No, you
it's
don't.
it's kind of like in art too, right? You don't need a degree to be an artist. You do it, and you make yourself an artist. Same thing with IT. There's so much you can learn now online through people, through connections and books, that you just go do it, find what you're interested in, learn it, meet some people who can get you into that field, and then go from there. And
Yeah.
there's so much learning on the job too.
Oh yeah, yeah. And well, I mean, and that's the strange thing that I've always found. Like, so I come from a skilled trade background. The name of the game when you're starting is apprenticeship, and then you have your journeyman and your masters. So, I've never understood why more career paths don't have that apprenticeship aspect, because, since time in memoriam, that was really the layout, whether it's, blacksmithing,
Yeah.
artistry, painters, they always had apprentices.
It's called interns now, and they don't get paid.
Yeah.
And usually they're just buying coffees for
Yeah,
everybody.
I think that's probably what you can equate it to in IT. I mean, the kind of intern that you're talking about is more like if you wanted to. It's like the typical thing you see
Assistant.
in an assistant,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
more like what you see in movies, or maybe if you're going out into Hollywood and you're trying to make it, the guys are gonna make you grind there and
Yeah.
not actually do things you want to do. You are getting the coffee or the dry cleaning or whatever, but in IT, first off, most internships I'd say are paid now,
Yeah.
and they're paid pretty well as well, actually.
We don't pay any of the show's interns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just wanted to get that out there so we don't receive any flack. Our
Yeah.
12 interns that we have,
For the
that
show.
that
Do all
you
the
know,
editing.
the makeup artist, and
Mhm.
the green room
Guy who made the
guy.
drink.
Yeah, the bartender. They're all unpaid interns. So
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. Just a disclaimer.
no, but what I was gonna say is, if you find a company, usually the good companies have like a mentorship, like an internal mentorship program where like higher middle to upper management will like offer to pick a person or two or three people in the company. I found that those are the companies that um, worth being a part of. It is, I think, rare to see that in companies. But
Yeah, it depends. I don't know exactly why this is the way it is. Maybe it's just because it's such an easy pool of candidates, but a lot of big companies, financial ones that are in like Google, Apple, doesn't really matter what industry, but who are in IT, they will uh, advertise to colleges to actually get
Mhm.
college students into their internship program, and they will do it as young as their freshman or sophomore year, because they'll bring them back every year to kind of train them and try to get them into their culture so that they can hire them after that. And so I could kind of see that as being a similar process as like an apprenticeship. And then once they're in the company, they're continuing to grow them. That's one of the reasons why companies like Google hire so many people who are new grads or just don't really have that much experience, because they can take them and mold them into the kind of developer or employee that they want them to be.
Yeah. To a certain extent, I mean, pretty much. I mean, everything is trainable.
Mhm.
Once you develop a basic skill set, you can, you know, work your way through it. So,
Right.
you might not be the best ever, but everything's trainable. And what I've found in like professional life, um, the most important thing is your attitude. Like you said, how does somebody fit into the company culture? And on the flip side, that's like the hardest thing to find is like a company where you fit in well with the culture.
True.
So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
There is that
yeah,
for sure.
interesting.
I looked up, or I think I was looking at Facebook or Meta,
Mhm.
and I didn't realize how many employees they had. It's like 71,000 employees.
Oh yeah. It's quite a bit.
Isn't that like a number that feels
Well, they own a lot of
inflated?
companies, though.
That's true. Yeah,
You
it's kind
know.
of like Google in that way,
Yeah.
where there's a ton of
I wonder how many actually work on the Facebook website.
the Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Well, they have Instagram, right?
Exactly.
They have
So-
Oculus. What are some other?
WhatsApp.
Oh yeah, they have WhatsApp. Yeah,
Probably a bunch of other things.
there's at least two guys working on WhatsApp.
There's at least, yeah.
So,
Still,
all right,
yeah.
where's the other 70,000 working?
You probably have tons of content moderators now.
Yeah.
Like tons.
Yeah.
Because after all the crap that they've gotten over time, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and I would have bet a lot of those employees would be like offshore employees too, right?
You think?
Content monitor? I don't know, because my thought just right off the bat is each culture has their own like accepted norms. So maybe
Yeah.
somebody that is in let's say like I don't know Austria,
Yeah.
they wouldn't necessarily be, flag things that might be like offensive to like Americans. But
Right.
I mean,
It's a good point.
yeah.
The Facebook Austrian team has got to be pretty lit, right? I want to
Yeah.
be a part of that.
Probably. They
Yeah.
just party and dance.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Dance.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Europeans seem to love
The
going
disco,
to clubs and
yeah.
the discotheque.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a required outing
Yeah.
every Thursday night.
I was kind of disappointed because I went to Berlin recently, and I'd always heard of Berlin as a discotheque kind of place.
Yeah.
Everyone stays up super late and goes out to the club.
Yeah,
till
we partying,
8 a.m.
yeah.
Yeah, and not that I'm into that kind of thing, but I just thought it would be interesting to see and experience, and I did not experience that at all. It was kind of just like a normal city. Everyone went to bed.
Lame.
It was quiet at night.
Yeah, I feel like very few places and things actually live up to their reputation. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just people living, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that being said, some places do live up to their reputation, and that's a different story altogether. But I think you can find a little bit of everything everywhere.
My mind goes to the movie Hostel. Do you guys remember that movie?
Yeah.
Where they go to the disco,
Mm.
they're like doing drugs, and then they end up getting brought back to the little torture chamber
Right.
thing. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. It wasn't anything like that, was it?
I mean, I do have this weird memory in my head.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't
Odd.
remember. There was like a whole day. I just don't remember.
I just watched this movie. It's like known or said to be the most like disturbing movie of all time. It's called A Serbian Film. Have you guys ever heard of this?
Yeah, I've
think
heard
so.
of that
Yeah.
one.
It freaking brutal, man. I don't recommend anybody watch that movie, but
Was it supposed to be like like a snuff film?
kind
Style?
of? Yeah.
Okay.
It's got a bunch of that in it, but it's not like a snuff film. I think it's related. I don't know. Somebody on TikTok was like 5 most disturbing movies of all time, and I was really bored. And like number 1 was that one. I'm like, all right,
So you
let's put
watched
on.
it because
Let's
you
put
wanted
it
to
on.
be disturbed.
Well, I feel like I have a high tolerance to scary movies. Not a lot gets me, going. That one wasn't scary, but it was pretty disturbing. I will say, there's parts where I felt very uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah. That's how I feel with most every scary movie. Sometimes I even have a hard time with thrillers. So
Yeah.
well, I have a naturally anxious disposition, so that's kind of brutal. But oddly enough, I do have a favorite scary movie, and it's pretty brutal. I think it's House of a Thousand Corpses.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a new one and there's an old one? Is that right? Or is there only
I'm
one?
not too sure. I only know the if there is one before. I only know the Rob Zombie iterations.
Yeah.
But man, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's when was that? When was that?
2003.
Oh yeah, I like how he has all the same people in his movies. Like he tries to keep it like almost like Christopher Nolan and the other guy that did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Quentin Tarantino,
yeah.
Wes Anderson would be a good example
Wes
of
Anderson.
that as well.
Yeah, do you like Wes Anderson movies?
He is one of my favorites of all time.
Really?
Like I mean, I love a lot of Tarantino's works, but yeah, Wes Anderson's probably my favorite, and yeah, like he has multiple movies in my top 10.
Yeah.
So.
Have you seen his most recent one, The French Dispatch?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's
little different,
fantastic. Like it's set up as more like vignettes with a couple real brief interludes, like in between, just kind of setting up the story that connects them all. But yeah, it's fantastic.
What's your favorite Wes Anderson film?
Oh, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
one of the few I haven't seen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should definitely check it out. Especially if you love Bill Murray. Yeah, that's a really fun one. Yeah, that is really, really good. And Grand Budapest isn't too far behind
Yeah,
either.
I love that one. That one's great. I was almost gonna watch that a couple days ago, um, but I settled on something worse. Um,
Did we just talk
Yeah,
about
you
it?
got. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't give us that lead in and not finish it. What was it?
The Dreamcatcher. It's a Stephen
Oh
King
yeah,
film. Yeah.
was it early King or late King?
I don't know. I think it's like the movies. I don't know when he wrote it, but like the movie was early 2000s, I think.
Yeah, because
It's
I know a lot of people that are big fans of Stephen King,
yeah.
and
I
they're
mean,
like,
no, he's
once it got
the
past
goat,
his
right?
like wild coke phase, like
Yeah, I
kind of
know.
everything
Chain smoking
consistently dropped.
cigarettes. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I mean like, what are you gonna say, Mo?
I feel like most of the movie adaptations are not good.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty solid. I think
The
that's
the
what he's in-
Dreamcatcher.
No, the movie It. It's a
Oh,
Stephen King
yeah,
movie,
okay.
but
Yeah, there's definitely a few that are great,
Yeah.
but I've watched so many of them
So
where
many.
I just have hated the movie.
yeah,
and I think, if I'm not mistaken, like Stephen King hated The Shining, which is one of the most like well known
Did
of
he really?
the movie adaptations. But
Oh.
then again, there are so few movies that live up to book or the book.
yeah,
It's just so hard because books, because of the formatting, there's so much more detail that you can never truly capture and portray
yeah,
in a movie. I mean, there are very few. So like my favorite books of all time were The Lord of the Rings, right? And you know, I love the movies, but they definitely portray it in a much different way. There's less like character to character connection, and the movies, they really highlighted the action sequences, obviously, to keep people captivated. So I mean, there's just little tweaks that have to be made that usually detract from the source material.
I also think when you're reading something, you know, there's a bit of your imagination is creating these characters. Obviously, the words and the descriptive language helps you formulate this like image and voice for this character, and so when you have read that book, you have this story, these characters in your mind, and you've almost kind of made up what they look like in your mind, what they sound like, who they are. And then when somebody portrays that to the screen, it may be somebody else's understanding of those characters that don't really live up to the same expectation of what you've created.
Yeah. Well, funny story. So Sean Connery, the quintessential James Bond,
Yeah.
the original too. Ian Fleming, when he first heard that Sean Connery was going to be Bond, like, was not happy because that wasn't at all who he had imagined.
Yeah.
But then I believe the story goes, Connery won Fleming over. So
That's good. Is he your favorite Bond?
oh, far and away.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's fair.
Yeah, by far my favorite Bond. Yeah, Craig's pretty close, but I don't think
Yeah.
anybody else really gets it. I don't know.
My favorite character that Craig has played is the detective in Knives Out. Have you seen that movie?
I have not.
Oh, did you like him?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah,
That
he
was
has this
interesting.
deep, like, Bible Belt South, like, proper Southern accent.
Oh,
I
really?
He
thought that
just
was
rocks.
crazy when I heard him first
Yeah.
talking that movie.
Like the plantation kind of like, yes, we're going to, swim in the lake. Yes. No, I mean it was one of the better murder mystery movies I've seen in a long time. It is fantastic. In fact, I think it was so good and so well received that Netflix just bought the rights to do like 2 more sequels of it. Just
Oh, really?
outright.
Right.
Just like paid the guys like up front. We're like, yeah, we want you guys to do 2 more. In fact, I think the next one's supposed to come out later or earlier next year.
It's just a
okay.
completely separate story.
I think,
or-
just another.
So it's not
the
him
next.
again?
No, it's the same guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
Daniel
is.
Craig reprises his role.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
guess it's his next case or whatever. Maybe it's a case before prelude or whatever or prequel. But Dreamcatcher, yeah, not so good. Should have watched the Grand Budapest Hotel because I love that one. I recently saw a making of the Mr. Fantastic, or yeah,
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Fantastic Mr. Fox. That's it. And I thought it was really cool how they. Have you seen like the behind the?
I haven't seen that.
They'll literally. So the way they captured it, traditionally in animation and stop animation, you have this like understanding or um, there's like a common way to do it where you're in a booth or you're in a sound studio and you're in front of this mic with your script and you're basically just giving the performing the lines in front of this mic. What they did is they basically um, they filmed or captured the audio in a normal acting situation. So like if they're in a house around the dinner table, they would actually sit around a dinner table and have like boom mics and they would act out the scene, all the different voice actors across the table and actually do the scene that way. And so that was I guess Wes's way of capturing an authentic like voice acting experience. And even like the parts where they're on the motorcycle, they're actually out in the front yard on a stationary motorcycle. The parts where they're running around, they're actually like running around the front yard, and the guy with the boom mic's having to like move the mic around to capture the so I didn't expect that. It was a really cool. It just reminded me of how great Wes is and how he goes through these extra lengths to make like these masterpieces. And a lot of people, I know a lot of people who don't like him a lot. They hit the way that he captures or frames the shot. It's very particular, right? He's like known for these symmetrical,
super
boxed
symmetry.
in type shots. And so I have a good friend who like hates it. He feels like it's trapped. He feels like claustrophobic.
Well, and beyond
shots.
the visual aspects of it, which I find are striking and I love them, but I think also you have to have the ability to enjoy dry, subtle senses. Have a dry, subtle sense of humor, because a lot of it, is just lost on people, and those are some of the things that I think are the funniest,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It can, and so you just got to find be able to find the humor in like, you know, just very slight things, almost absurdist, but it's played real deadpan, real straight, and like pretty much the entire movie Life Aquatic. Bill Murray is just like, it's absurd to watch, but like he just does such a good job at that deadpan delivery that you're like, you kind of think like, I can really see this character. It's just
He's an artist where if you watch or if you had like a row of 10 movies, you definitely know which one is the Wes Anderson film if you didn't know it. Like he has such a unique particular style that you can even if it was like something you've never seen before, like that's Wes Anderson or somebody trying to emulate Wes Anderson.
And the miniatures, the symmetrical shots,
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know, the plot lines as well, it's usually about like a family falling apart or something like that, somebody going through some sort of crisis in their lives, and also the interconnectivity of people in their lives, and just stuff like that. So yeah, Wes has a lot of distinctive.
Who's another artist in the industry that you think has captured that particular style where you're like, if you saw it, you're like, that's a blank. Is there anybody that comes to mind?
I mean, Tarantino,
Coen
brothers as well.
Coen brothers, okay.
Although I mean, a little bit of the Coen brothers. I guess I've just known or followed them for a long time. So, but Tarantino, and even though it's only like a couple movies, I would say Gus Van Sant, who directed Good Will Hunting and Finding Forrester, which are like two of my all-time favorites as well. So
Really? Okay.
yeah, and you just get that distinctive feel for them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a few directors, but then there's other ones that are supremely talented that you can't really pick out, like Joss Whedon, for instance. Try connecting Buffy the Vampire Slayer to Firefly to Avengers, or the Avengers. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, there's some directors that really stick to that style and some don't. But I would say the two primary are probably Tarantino and Wes Anderson.
Yeah. Another one that comes to mind is Michael Bay. You just kind of know. Like, I'm not a big Michael Bay fan, and I think his work is kind of varied whether or not like it's good or it was received well. But there's like this lens flares
Sure.
and the lighting and
Oh yeah,
the
and
hyper realism and the
I-
sound effects.
I like Michael Bay, but the thing about his movies is to some degree you have to like check your intelligence at the door, like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
go with the flow, like get lost in
Yeah.
it, like Transformers, like.
The third one, you're
Not,
like,
it's
what
not
the fuck?
it's not a poetic movie. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like super intellectual, but fuck, it's fun.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised when he took that on. It was like I wanted to be in that pitch meeting where they brought it to him. They're like, "Yeah, we're gonna take this toy franchise and make it for the big screen." And he's like, "I'm in."
Well, I don't know. That's
You know?
been going on for a while. Like, I'm a '90s baby, so like
They had
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the live action movies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's been like
Could you see Michael Bay doing those movies?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Didn't he direct the reboots?
I have no idea.
Who,
Did he?
who directed
Let's
those?
see.
Are those actual like live action? Or are they oh yeah, they are live action.
Yeah. So there's the ones
never
from the
saw 'em.
'90s, and then the new ones. I didn't like the new ones.
I was
too
always
much.
surprised at how well they were able to get those suits like to interact and talk and
Oh,
blink.
yeah.
Like it seemed a little ahead of its time. No.
Well, yeah, and especially because it was pre like CGI.
Mhm.
It was really good puppetry.
Yeah, it was.
That went into that. Trying to think of some other good movies with good puppets.
I think what stood out.
Labyrinth.
Yeah, Labyrinth. Yeah, like all the Jim Henson stuff is always like really
Mhm.
good too. If
Mhm.
you think about that, yeah, just all around really solid stuff. Bear in the Big Blue House, of course, can't go wrong with that.
Sesame Street.
Yeah, Sesame Street. Like, come on, we're gonna Muppet Treasure Island. What did you find, Miles?
Yeah, he did not direct them. It was actually the last two, which were 2014 and 2016, two different guys. Dave Green was 2016, and then Jonathan Liebesman was 2014.
I always saw those as kind of like money grabs a little bit.
Oh yeah, well a lot of it. It's how I see like the Sonic movies now.
Yeah, Harry Potter. With all those like
the new ones.
Yeah, the new ones.
Well, actually, I'm too biased. So because I love those movies. And
Okay.
I just that's one of the like things in my life, is like the Harry Potter books. I used to go.
It's nostalgic.
It's very nostalgic, and I wanted it to continue. So I
Mhm.
wholeheartedly accepted the Fantastic Beast. Storyline. It didn't feel as money grabby as a lot of things like those Ninja Turtles or,
Yeah.
blanking
Or
on
like
some-
Insidious 7, or
yeah. There's
what's the other one?
The doll.
Yeah,
That series.
Annabelle.
Uh,
Annabelle 4. She's back and she's gonna kill you. Like, okay. What was the other one? The Purge has like
Oh, God.
9 or Fast and Furious.
Fast
Fast and Furious. They're on
know
like
what?
the 11th one
But
now.
people love it.
Yeah, some
They
people
make
love
tons
them.
of money.
I checked out after the third, but one of One of my all-time favorite movies that I love to hate is Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so bad it's good.
yeah.
So bad it's good.
It
Like,
really is. Yeah. You
um,
never saw that guy that played the lead. He like did that one. They were like, "You're out." They're like that was not good. Like this, we're not inviting you. I think they actually
he
did
did
come
more
back.
recently.
Yeah, I think they brought him back for a moment, but
Yeah, I mean Bow Wow was in it. It's just like
yeah,
complete money grabs. Like they weren't going for talent or story there. They were just going
yeah,
for, you know,
race
action,
cars.
race cars,
Yeah,
drifting,
yeah,
Tokyo
pew
Drift.
pew.
Yeah, Japanese mob yakuza
Yeah, yeah.
somehow fits into this, you know,
It has to. It has to.
and somehow grown adults fucking high schoolers isn't weird.
Yeah. There's a lot of that stuff that you look at now and you're like, couldn't do that today.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was weirder for me that it was like contemporary. I mean, looking back, you know, that wasn't as bad of a social faux pas as it, or not. I mean,
Mhm.
it's fucked up. Not even a faux pas, but you know, like 70s. You know, you'd have songs about that. You know, there's the shit, even Dazed and Confused, which is portraying that era, you know, Matthew McConaughey, you know,
Yeah.
man, I love high school chicks. I get
Yeah.
older, they stay the same age. Like,
Yeah.
that wouldn't fly today anymore, nor should it. But the fact that that was still a part of that plot line just stands out to me. I'm like, yeah.
I feel like if you're doing a period piece though, if a movie today that came out that was based in the 70s, like it took place in the 70s, like would could we still include dialogue like that and just accept it that's what happened in the 70s, right?
I mean, I
Otherwise we're
truly
just
don't
like
think we could.
it's like a Orwellian self
Yeah, that
censorship type of situation where you're like, oh, people
double
won't like
speak.
that today, but it's like, well, yeah, that's what
Well,
how it was back then.
what's that new Jane Austen adaptation that they just made? I don't know, just made me watch it. It's not really my thing, but Bridgerton as well. You know, these
Oh
are
yeah,
period pieces, but they're just putting in so many anachronisms. Like,
yeah,
I don't really want to get into race or anything, but you know, they're at the time. You know, there's no, you know, people of color in the aristocracy. Like, few and far between. Maybe in you know, England, it would be more Indian, you know,
right, yeah, sure.
type stuff. So, you know, and yeah, I mean, they can't even do that without doing like a fourth wall break or, you know, and
Hmm.
that movie was infuriating. But no, I mean, there's, especially right now, we're really trying to push our morality onto people in the past who did not share that same morality because, you know, I think in life in general, but like as a society, we're the summation of our experience. So you take away a lot of that experience, you
Hmm.
know, and then you are back in time to where, you know, things were as they were, you know. And that's, I mean, that I feel like is the point of a period piece, you know,
Yeah.
you're really trying to transport yourself back into that time. It's like fucking John Wayne, like for another example, this has been happening for a long time, but John Wayne playing like Genghis Khan, you
Yeah.
know, that's absurd.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, James Franco's back in the news now. Have you seen
what did
this?
he do
No.
this
He's
time?
so I can't remember what studio it is. I think it might be Warner Brothers or somebody else is developing a Fidel Castro story or something around that whole situation,
Yeah,
and they've casted him as Fidel Castro. And so I think there's a gentleman who's pretty famous. He's a Latino guy, and he like called, I guess, whoever the casting director or whoever out for casting him as Fidel because he's not Latino. And then a bunch of people were like, "Well, Fidel's not Latino. He's actually like half white. He wasn't even
yeah.
Cuban when
Huh.
he came in to take over the government." And this whole thing, and you know, and it's all happening in real time, so like we're all kind of self-aware of like what's happening, and
Hmm.
like there's obviously a few different opinions about it, but it's interesting to see. And also James Franco, who's like I thought was quote unquote canceled, if you
Yeah.
can, if you may, like where he did all that creepy stuff with like teenagers. I
Right.
actually don't know much about it. I just kind of
Yeah.
heard there's some legit. I can't talk.
Legitimately?
Anyway, so yeah, I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting because it to bring up your point about John Wayne playing Genghis Khan. It's like, obviously that seems wrong, right? Like we can retrospectively look at that and be like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. It's also kind of weird that that was like people were like, yeah, totally. but at the same time, when we look back at things that were made, like I treasure and find movies that really capture the authenticity of the time, like timepieces. Like I recently watched The Color Purple, which is like it's a fantastic Steven Spielberg movie. It deals with like the 1920s and being like black in the South and like domestic abuse and family members being torn apart. It's this really tragic, fantastic story, but it was done in such a way that it felt so authentic. It felt like you were transported back to that time. And I feel like some of that movie magic is starting to get lost when you kind of overproduce it, or I don't want to say like wokeism gets in the way, but it kind of is that a little
It
bit.
does.
But you know,
Well, wokeism gets in the way of a lot of things, like calling out cultural appropriation. Like, again, we're the sum nation of our experience. So, like, we take good things, we leave the bad things. You know, we're all an amalgamation of like every culture. So you have that. But you were saying something else.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say. I mean, you could almost consider it sometimes, depending what they're doing, even if the movie is not historical, but kind of rewriting history, right? Like portraying a specific time, but doing it without slavery in it,
Yeah.
right? If it was a time during when they actually had slavery, or like you were saying with the racial inaccuracies, it's still giving off to people who don't know much about that time, younger people,
Yeah.
like, oh, it was like this back then, right? And it really wasn't.
Which in and of itself is almost racist because, you know, given our current culture, you know, it's a melting pot, as it were, you know, especially now, like, you know, there's a lot more mixing of cultures and all of this, you know, the internet really has made the world smaller, but also larger at the same time. But, you know, so it's almost racist in that, you know, you don't get that stark realization like, where the fuck are all the black people? Like, and if you grow up seeing images like that, like the Bridgerton, you're like, well, you know, you might have a skewed version or, you know, something. Because I mean, at the time of these pieces, you know, the English were racist as hell. You know, they're colonists. They're
they're still
still
kind of racist.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
like the royal family, it doesn't have a good track record.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, but we know-
supposedly, allegedly, I should say.
a stand-up special that recently came out. Ronnie Chang. Are you familiar with him?
I don't know if I know him.
I think he's Malaysian.
Okay.
He moved over here for to pursue a stand-up comedy career, but like the opening line of his new special is like, everybody's racist. You know, we all have our preconceived notions. You know, it's the extent to which you buy into these stereotypes and everything that are important. I think, you know, as long as you drop the bullshit, you know, you can suspend your beliefs and take people as they are. I think that's the key to it all. You know, you got to take everybody as they are. You know, just like you got to take life on life's terms, you got to take people as they are and make your judgments. You know, based on them. Like, yeah, it's.
I'd like to see still people try to pursue authenticity of, you know,
Yeah.
if you're making a movie, I feel like maybe the answer is just like a disclaimer at the front of the movie being like,
Yeah.
listen, this is obviously a historical take, you know, it deals with situations and things that were previously acceptable that now currently are, but we're in the interest of telling the story as it happened. we have taken liberties that may be unsettling or disturbing to some people.
Give context. I am
Yeah.
all for that. Like, I mean, I'm generally not a huge fan of trigger warnings or anything like that.
Right.
But in this day and age, I think they're especially necessary. Like, hey, this is what you're getting into.
Right.
You know, you know, because life back then, life today, it's messy, and everything is not perfect. Uh, all of our histories, one step forward, two steps back. So
Mm-hmm.
I just wish we had a more of that outlook than like we need to make up for every historical wrong. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, how far back do you want to go? Because every group of people is fucked over every other group of people.
Yeah.
Like, if you go back far enough, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like the epitome of history. It's just people getting fucked over.
Yeah.
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 Trading
with
off
power.
that.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
and what people don't realize nowadays is like how brutal people were like back in the day. I was before we started, I was talking to Myles about my personal favorite podcast besides this one, obviously.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thank you.
It's called Hardcore History
Uh-huh.
with Dan Carlin, and they go through like accounts of stuff you can't even believe. Like medieval torture and stuff that Genghis Khan did, like they defeat enemies, I think it was in Russia, and then they just put bodies down, put a platform down, put more bodies down, put a platform on, and then dined on like a bunch of groaning, suffocating men,
Yeah.
and rape and pillage were the norm and not the exception.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we don't understand how like good we have it right now. And people can't exactly comprehend like there's just a thin veneer of civilization, that separates us from them, that separates us from, lower life forms, the animal world.
This morning I went climbing. Then I went to a store called Vibe Foods and got an acai bowl. And then I strolled right over to the Trader Joe's, picked up some fresh squeezed orange juice and an orange. Then I went to return something at Kohl's. And not at any point during that process was I worried about raping or pillaging. So I think to that point, we got it pretty good.
Yeah.
Where is
It's all about perspective.
Yeah.
You gotta, I mean, yeah. But then again, I think that might be an more easily accepted idea now. Like, just extend the COVID toilet paper situation a few more weeks. Things get a little bit progressively worse. All bets are off.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Like shit can get real wild real quick.
You got people fighting over turkeys.
Yeah.
In the grocery store when it's Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah. Oh, Black Friday.
Yeah.
Black Friday,
Like
over
it's
a
not
TV.
easy, too hard for us to revert back to these things, but somehow we've forgotten that those are like parts of our nature that we have to fight against still.
I feel like Black Friday had a couple of years where it was kind of touch and go, where and then I think it got so bad where people were kind of then self-aware of the whole situation. We're like, can we not fight over a 32-inch flat screen TV? Like, is it really worth it?
I think the internet did a good thing for Black Friday.
Yeah,
I think right when like Amazon and internet, like the Cyber Monday stuff started coming out, I think was the beginning of the end of the more crazy Black Fridays.
Yeah. South Park has a fantastic bit on Black Friday. It's amazing. It's one of the best pieces of South Park out there.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? Like in this day and age, like I cannot think of a better example of like social commentary, accurate social commentary than South Park.
Yes,
like,
totally.
Even going back to like the early days, I mean the first season a little bit less,
Yeah, right.
It's really developed into what it is now, but I think it's like the third season, fourth season, like it's an episode called Chef Goes Nanners, and it's all about the South Park flag and racism and all this, and like the kids don't understand that this flag is racist and we need to teach them and all this, and then everything gets blown out of proportion, and You know, I mean, there's so many examples of that, throughout. Like, yeah, I love that show. I
Yeah,
love
it's great. I
Trey
think
Parker and Matt Smith or Matt Stone are the best.
they get away with it so easily. I used to think it was just because it was a cartoon, but then I was thinking more deeply about it, and I was like, they don't like they have funny takes on things, but they're not like generating situations. They're just like observing what's happening around the United States specifically in its current form, and then just adding that into the plot line somehow. And it's like, we didn't come up with this shit. You guys did this. We're just riffing off of it, like,
Yeah.
and like making fun of it or poking holes in it or doing this and that. And so I think that's why they get away with all the crazy. I mean,
They're
They're-
just
for sure.
they're just like almost like a reflection of current society, like our society.
totally.
At
It's like
any
a
given
mirror.
time.
Yeah.
Like, oh god, one of the best ones was like the Goobacks episode where they're getting immigration for the whole town, and or from the future, they're having immigrants come from the future, and all this crazy stuff, and they start calling them Goobacks, and like they took her, and that sort of stuff. But then they get away with that sort of stuff, like, because then they make it so absurdist. So
Yeah.
the solution for getting rid of the Goobacks is all the guys turn gay and just get into a big gay pile, and
Yeah.
and then everything goes south. The plan doesn't work. Back to the pile,
Yeah. Oh man.
and it's just ridiculous. But like, still, the point was made that I think everybody understands, even if they don't realize that they, what had just happened, what they like gleaned from the commentary, they still got it and like digest it, and slowly, they, see it as that.
Yeah, and I think even it was like last season or the season before that, before and after every show they would have hashtag cancel South Park, just making fun of the cancel movement. Where they're like, cancel us, we don't give a fuck. And then 2 years later, Paramount Plus offers them $900 million to do like 6 movies or whatever it is.
So you guys are 90. I was just thinking about this. You guys grew up in the 90s as well.
Yeah.
Remember when it was like the religious right that was like the moral authority, that we're trying to do things like cancel people, like
Right.
rap music, Tipper
Yeah.
Gore, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and
It was also like even going back to Reagan,
yeah,
like
Yeah.
the whole drug war
War on
was started. The war on drugs, yeah. So and that was
Reagan was like deified too, and
Mhm.
it was almost in a way that Obama is now, like semi-deified. They're not
Sure.
thought of as gods, but they're
Right.
these people put up on pedestals, and it's like, yeah, well, they were supremely flawed, and
Yeah,
what's
all of them, yeah.
morally acceptable now might not be morally acceptable today or tomorrow. And people lose sight of that so often. But I think it's just so strange that we got to see that polar switch from conservatism being the morally the group that's arguing morals, versus like now it's the left and the woke.
Yeah. Well, it's just another religion. I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
all like quote unquote wokeism is just people finding a different religion or spirituality, right?
Yeah.
They have their set of rules just like Christians do. They have, meetings and gatherings just
Right.
like Christians. Like it's not, I don't know if it's intentionally structured like organized religion is, but it just so happened to
I think
unfold that way.
what really is happening is that it's filled the gaps. I bet you could see like chart out like where the religion is on the decline, but like these quote unquote woke ideals are on the increase. And I think there's something that naturally we tend towards, like with religions and all that sort of thing. And with that missing, we got to have something else. But the problem, well, religion had obviously had so many issues throughout time, but the problem with the stuff that's going on now today, like, people don't recognize that it's a religion,
Mm-hmm.
a pseudo religion, and there's no actual text or anything for anybody to agree on. So it's just what's trending now.
Yeah.
It's these ideas, and somebody who's the leader in the movement right now, they might say something like one thing out of step, and the group jumps on them. And there's just so many land. That's where my big problem is. Well, I will always just say whatever the fuck I want. I'm a huge contrarian. Either way, like, I'll insult your religion or else insult your beliefs just to do that. Not in a dick way, but just be
Mm-hmm.
contrarian. And it's, yeah, it's wild. It's just wild what's happening.
Yeah, I think you saw it happen like the 70s with like New Age, that like in itself is kind of religious, right? Or spiritual. And then now you're seeing it like kind of a similar thing emerge again today when you have a group of people who aren't happy with the current establishment of whatever that means, the
Mm-hmm.
government, religion, uh, capitalism, economy, global issues, and they kind of they form communities and come together. I mean, it's no different than what you could call like legacy religion, right?
Well, interestingly enough, I think there's a big parallel between the last, like, major revolution in technology that completely transformed the world. Today, it's the internet. Back in the day, it was the printing press,
Mm-hmm.
and where that ties together, when the Bible was printed into uh, a vernacular language, a commonly spoken tongue, because nobody fucking, even in the 1500s, spoke fucking Latin. Very
Yeah.
few people did.
Mm-hmm.
And what Martin Luther did was he translated the Bible into German, a language people actually spoke,
Mm-hmm.
and that birthed the Protestant Reformation, which is where Catholics and non-Catholics and everything, they went to war. And then you had even, like, crazy subgroups, like, called the Anabaptists, and subgroups of
The
them, and they got,
Luther religion, or
well,
yeah,
Lutheranism.
yep.
That's where you get, like, I mean, pretty much. I mean, besides, like, it opened the door for the schism between Church of England. I can't remember when the Episcopal Church started, but yeah, Lutheranism, Seventh Day Adventists. This is where everything kind of fractured. It was a real schism, and that
Mm-hmm.
was as a result of technology, a revolutionary technology that really changed the face of the world. And we see that again with the internet. And I think it's really interesting that a similar thing is happening. Like, it makes me think, like, not too much has changed up here. Like,
Oh yeah.
as much as we want to think we're evolved,
No,
not much
yeah.
has changed, and we still have those same tendencies.
Yeah, we're still being born hardwired in a very similar way. Our kind of um, nurture aspect of our
Mm-hmm.
upbringing obviously has changed. How old is the Germanic language? Can we look that up? I'm just generally
Germanic
interested.
languages, I mean, date back to, I mean, Gaul, or like, Roman times. That's who was invading, um, Rome, like
Hmm.
the Goths, the Visigoths, that actually ended up destroying the Roman Empire. These were Germanic tribes, and they spoke Germanic langues.
Yeah, middle of the first millennium BC.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Damn.
that's what I work for a German company, so I have a lot of German coworkers. And
Mhm.
one time they were talking to me about something, how there's so many dialects in Germany that they can go to some area of the country and not even understand someone, even though
Yeah.
they're speaking the same language. And
Hmm.
I thought, oh yeah, we don't really have that in the U.S. I mean, you have that a little bit, like in parts of the U.K. or Ireland versus in the U.S. and Australia. We have some different, even in Canada, different words. Some people have very strong accents.
Hmm.
And he goes, yeah, well. I mean, in the U.S., you guys are hundreds of years old versus
Yes.
the German language is thousands, of years
Yeah,
old. So it's
and
had so much more time to change.
yeah, and I think we really forget, like, especially in this country, like the time frame, like how young we are, how relatively new we are on the scene.
Yeah.
A couple hundred years is like the low mark for a lot of the great empires of all time, and like
And we're already having
yeah,
cracks in our
Yeah.
yeah,
society.
and that's another thing, like with our society, like the thin veneer. You see what so for a long time Americans had like a common mythology, a common heritage, something that we could base our patriotism on.
Yeah.
And now we're so fractured and divided. We have nothing that really unites us into the United States, or
Yeah.
even within every state, like unites us together. There's no neighborly good. There's not an attitude of neighborly goodwill, because you see everybody else as the other. And
Yeah. You know what's gonna fix it all? I have a solution. I think we can get there. All right. You have
Please
like.
don't say anything about Putin.
Putin.
Okay.
Putin's on his way out. Okay. No. Um. So yeah, you have like right. You have like Taiwan situation happening, escalated tensions between the United States and China, and then you
Right.
have like Russia and the Ukraine war like all coming into effect. You have all these different things like happening, and it feels like we've never been closer to World War III than we
Right.
are right now. So what we need is something that can bring the entire human race together to in a collective means, and I think we can get there if the United States government admits that there's aliens out there. Right? Right?
that would
Because
absolutely do it.
so it happened during 9/11, right? Like the tragedy, the plane hit the towers, and we were all kind of like, yeah, we need to rile up and defeat this enemy, and blah blah blah. We don't have. I mean, we have China, and like people are making them out to be this bad thing, and obviously the government's corrupt. Every government's corrupt, and the people that they're governing obviously just want to like wake up, go to their job, feed their families, go to bed, and wake up and do the same exact thing, right? Nobody fucking cares if you're Chinese or Russian or whatever. But if we had aliens, if we had the imminent threat of something unhuman that wanted to potentially end the human race, then we could all rally together as a collective species, come together, have this common sense of like brotherhood or sisterhood or whatever, and find the common ground that way, right?
Do you think that the people who are extremely religious would go for this?
I think if there was definitive proof that there was alien technology or aliens in general, I think obviously there's going to be those people who are batshit crazy or like, that's not real. That's just the government. There's always going to be somebody doubting the government, right? Because we have so many reasons to doubt the government, right? They've lied to us in the past. They've been nefarious.
Yeah.
But if we had something that was foolproof, something that was so evident that there truly was alien species out there and they had better technology and could squash us at any moment, I think we could all come together and recognize that we are all the same. We're just humans.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. It's funny how existential crisis will really bring people together.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, last time there was a world war, there was a common foe in the fascists and Japanese versus, the Allied powers. Well, the Allied powers immediately after the war they became enemies. I mean, that's where you get the Soviet Union, the Cold War from.
Right.
But prior to the Cold War, we were allies against the Germans, the Nazi Germans.
Mm-hmm.
And, so, but that was because there was an existential crisis in the works. And that's what scares me about the proposition of World War III, because I'm not sure people will be wise enough not to use the nukes, and once those shits start flying,
I think we were
game
all
over.
scared about Putin, but
I'm more worried about G.
recently he was like, "No, we're not. I'm not even like nukes aren't even on the table." Like
Well,
I think there's some kind of recent converse or press conference around him saying
Yeah.
something akin to that.
but didn't they say that if Sweden and Finland join NATO, that they're going to line their northern border with nuclear power?
I mean,
I
That
think
might have been. I know a lot of the crazy shit that's been said, from the Russian side is that Sergei Lavrov. He's popped out, spouted off some wild shit. I think Putin has kind of toned down his rhetoric.
Hmm.
We'll have to see. I'm very skeptical.
well, I think he's going to use them as he should, which is as a deterrent,
Mm-hmm.
like, and not actually use them. Like that's the only reason why we should have nukes, pro-nuclear, anti-nuclear as it is to have some sort of deterrent. I mean, it's
Right.
worked
Like
so far,
if
right?
there's someone who's crazier than you who will use them, you need to have more of them than they have, right?
Right. Yeah.
Mutually assured destruction.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
funny how we're back to mutually assured destruction.
Which is why we need the aliens, dude.
We need to bring Matthew Broderick back for War Games 2.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
a sequel, a reboot I could get behind.
I think they are. I think they are doing it, but he's not. I don't know if he's a part of it, but I think they are going to do it. Yeah, but that's the point. The point of the whole alien thing is like, then we can all just have that gain perspective of like, why are we fighting over borders? Why are we fighting over countries when there's this whole other thing that's like constantly surveilling us and could end us
Yeah.
at any moment.
Well, I mean, I think, maybe, I mean, this is sci-fi, so not real, but I mean, that's basically the plot of like Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Klingons.
nuclear war, there was, huge strife, and then, we almost blew ourselves back to the Stone Age, but not quite. And then when we developed or warp technologies, and then we were contacted by the Vulcans, that's when, the utopian, Federation came into play. And
Right.
it's the same idea. Like, once we see each other more as more common than alike, or more alike than different,
Yeah.
see the commonalities between ourselves. Because, like you were saying earlier, like the average person in China just wants to, wake up, go to work, take care of their family. Same thing here, same thing in Russia, same thing everywhere.
Yep.
It's our governments and the people in power that are really, doing the fuckery, because we don't really have like personal beefs with anybody.
Exactly,
like
but
that.
they want you to. They want to rally you up and be like, "No, the Chinese are bad, and the Russians are bad." And you're like, "Well, actually, they're just like us. It's the guys that are in charge that are also, fueling the propaganda machine on their side that are actually the people who we need to be afraid of." But as soon as it gets close to where like China's like, we're about to hit that button, the United States just needs to pull out the alien card and be like, hold up, before you do that, aliens, though.
They already
Aliens,
kind of did that
though.
during COVID. They did that a little bit during COVID.
Yeah, they did.
They need to, if they're gonna do that, they need to like
Yeah,
go all out, release all the information.
yeah,
And I will say though, the one thing I think, it's very, very apparent that Russia, the one differentiating factor in all of this, our government's corrupt as fuck, and but at least we act like we're like good actors on the scene. With China, all the theft of intellectual property,
yeah.
all of that, and then just, I mean, shit like what they do with the Uyghur Muslims, and Putin with what he's doing in Ukraine. There's no veneer of like them being even attempting to be good actors on the stage. Whereas at least we do that, but I don't know. I fucking hate our government too. So maybe we could all just, it's weird. There's always going to be these hierarchies, right? Like no matter what, 'cause all things are not created equal.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, that would be the one thing I think. I think you're right. Like the one thing that would bring us all together and like tell, make us like, hey, fuck you, Biden, fuck you, Xi, fuck you, Putin.
Yeah.
We're not listening to you anymore. We're not buying into your bullshit propaganda. We're gonna unite with these guys over here because they're, we're the same. Like,
Yeah.
we need to get that bigger perspective in a bad way.
And then you get the weirdo alien people that are like, the aliens are just here to help us. They love us. And then there's a whole nother religion that's created. It's like the alien
Open your anus to the
yeah,
aliens or
yes,
something.
yes. Open your arms wide for the aliens. Have you seen the movie Nope yet?
No, I really want to
Yeah,
though.
it's like it's based on like UFOs and
Okay.
alien
Really?
stuff. Yeah,
I
yeah. You
It
wouldn't get
looks
that.
so strange.
I'm
I
not like
like the
spoiling it for you
wacky
because
waving arm inflatable tube man.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like, wait,
yeah,
what the
yeah,
fuck is this movie even gonna
yeah,
be about? But
yeah. It's
aliens make sense.
yes, yes, and I think the movie covers the whole idea of aliens pretty well and how I'd expect aliens to be. I won't give much more away. You should go see it. I think
Yeah.
it's not like the greatest Jordan film. Jordan, is it Pele or
Peele.
Peele? Yeah, Jordan Peele. It's not his best work, but it was entertaining enough.
Yeah.
I think his first film, Get Out, was probably my favorite. Us is really good too. It's kind of has a nice twist ending, but this one, it feels a little different than the others in the way that the subject matter is completely different. But yeah, I just think it's like it's that perspective, going back to that, that hey, we're so small. All of our like problems that governments have created that we have to carry on our backs or our shoulders don't matter anymore because there's something much bigger than us that matters.
Could that go for like any situation? For instance, if I have beef with my neighbor because he keeps letting his trees grow into my yard, and I yell at him every day, "Stop letting your fucking trees grow in my yard," am I suddenly gonna be like, "Dude, there's aliens.
Yes.
I love your trees."
No. You won't give a shit anymore because what happens if you guys are having that beef and then all of a sudden the neighbor on the other side of you just gets zapped out of nowhere, and now his house is like completely leveled because the aliens just zapped him. You think you and your neighbor are gonna beef over tree limbs anymore? No, you're gonna be like, fuck these aliens. What are we gonna do about? We're having a meeting right now.
Yeah, but
you and I are now allies against these aliens.
Probably what's gonna happen is I'm like, take him next. So I'm gonna tie him up.
Maybe at the point we're at right now, shit's pretty wild right now. But also, I mean, alternatively, like gleaning that universal perspective, like if we all just stop, like maybe if we all just had a time, like, and just think about it, like we are all literally stardust. Like every atom in our body was born in the heart of a dying star. Like.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many bigger things than our petty bullshit going on. Like, how can we come together? And it's less. I mean, the aliens would do it more simply, but there is potential to do it without, but we have to be very fucking careful about how we go about it, because one slip up, the nukes are flying. Who knows how that ends? Like, is that the end of the human race? Like, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, there was this TV show. I think it was HBO that did it. I can't remember the name of it, but the premise of it takes place. It's like shows you a period of time, and then it jumps forward like 5 years or something. But in the beginning of the show, Trump, it was because it took place during his presidency, launches a nuke and like hits an island right off the shore of China, and just completely levels that whole like island. And then it's like a story of like just a normal American life, but of having to like reconcile with like the fact that happened. And it's really interesting. I don't think it goes into like the consequences of that, but I guess one of the family members was on the island, and now she has like radiation poisoning, and it's really fucking weird. But it reminds me of that. And Like China never retaliated. It was weird. Like,
Yeah, that would, God, that would be something special. Like, I don't know. We need some sort of like wisdom in our leadership, like
mm,
that in a very bad way. Somebody that's willing to be that martyr, because it usually those wise leaders that unite us don't usually last too long for various reasons. JFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X,
yeah.
the real unifiers. They're usually short lived, but they have a massive impact.
Hmm.
In stabilizing the world enough for us to
So we just need one of those
stave
now.
off disaster. I think so. I don't
Mm,
know who it is. I don't see anybody like that right now, but you
mm,
never know how these people have. I mean, it's through adversity, the best, uh, the worst aspects of us come out, but some of the more noble aspects of us come out. So I think it's going to take a little bit more adversity, but we might actually find somebody like that can do it, or
mm.
not, and we're fucked.
Kanye West.
Oh God.
Wow, I think you just solved it. We don't even need the aliens anymore.
Yeah.
He is the alien.
He's a
Yeah.
being,
Then
right?
at least we can be like, we can all just be like, God damn it, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, you. Wait, what did he say?
It,
Shit is wild.
it was so easy to find that person back in the day because you could hide so much more back then, right? Like I
Martin
feel
Luther
like
King was, cheated on his wife all the
yeah,
time. JFK as well. Like,
right,
and he
exactly.
was deathly ill. There
Yeah.
wasn't, you could put up that facade
Hmm.
a little bit easier.
We now have the ability to dig up so much dirt so quickly on just about anybody if you really wanted to, and so much more of our lives are more public nowadays than they were back in the day. So yeah, I don't know who that person could be. Tom Hanks maybe, bet maybe he did some shady
Maybe
shit
Shed
back in the
Hanks.
He
day.
did get pretty angry recently at some people.
Oh
He
yeah, well that
said
was deserved. I saw that.
he said the F word. So
Yeah,
I don't
you
know
know
if he's
what?
our guy anymore.
That's
Wait,
true.
which
Fuck 'em.
F word now? I can't tell.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
it fuck or fact? Let's
Yeah.
just be honest.
It was both. It was both. He's really gotten off the rails. Tom, if you're listening, we're here for you, bud.
It might have been COVID that did it to him. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, COVID did a lot of things to a lot of people. Or alternatively, maybe we could just realize that we're all human. Like, he
Yeah.
who is without sin cast the first stone. Maybe we just
Yeah.
need somebody that will fucking own it.
Nobody can fully grasp that concept though. Accept it, right?
Well, maybe we just need like a dirty drug addict in recovery to do it. Because I've seen, going back to like the start, like I've seen some fucking people like own up to some real horrendous shit and like own it, like
Mm.
regardless of consequence. So there are people with integrity out there. I'm not saying they have to be drug addicts. That's just my experience. But somebody with integrity can be like, yeah, I fucked up. That was not the right thing to do at the time. Like, here's what I did to address it, but we
Mhm.
have to also let that person do that, which
Yeah.
is the tricky part.
So you're saying Will Smith should be the next president?
Oh,
Shit.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, he did apologize to Chris Rock. That was big of him. No.
Yeah, the problem is
Jada?
even as he does something like that, it's never the same.
Yeah.
It's never the same. You can't. Yes, we as fellow humans should come together and be like, Will Smith. Obviously, you've came and you've apologized and you've owned up for what you did. We should all be able to be like, good for you. Let's move on. And yeah, it's in the past now, buddy. But that's just the reality. The reality of the situation is there's going to be a large portion of us that go, you're fucking dead to us, dude. Like, and I'm not saying that's how I feel, but I'm just saying there are people out there that will never want to go see another Will Smith movie after what happened, right?
yeah, totally.
Well, there's always going to be the outlier, and outliers like that, like Will Smith's unforgivable. He's
Sure.
untouchable. Fuck that guy forever type stuff. but in my experience, most people like we need to do it in mass. This is the tricky part. It's easier to do on an individual level than in mass, but we just need to find a way for like even 90% of us to like get on board with the idea that like nobody's perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and we did. And going back to religion, that's how we did have that, like that's where that idiom comes from. He who was
Yeah.
out there sin cast the first stone. That's a basic text that we all believed in for a long time, or a lot of people believed in for a long time, and it's so there we just need to figure out the unifying factor. I What that is, I don't know.
I think it's kind of
Aliens,
popular
yeah.
and has been popular for a while to canceling someone represents is they made one mistake, regardless of what
Mhm.
it is, one mistake or a million mistakes in the past, and someone found out about them, and that person's just dead now. Like there's no coming back from what they've done, and I think that's a really popular thing for people right now to do.
Yeah. Well, I think, and one thing that I am seeing that's actually gives me hope is more and more people are just like, yeah, fuck it. Like, I don't give a fuck, and that's a little bit more what we need. Like, that's why you see like Dave Chappelle's been pretty fucking hard to cancel. Rogan's been pretty fucking hard to cancel. There are people out there that will just be like, yeah, I fucked up. And then soon enough, people forget about it, and you know, but we need somebody that can do that consistently. And it's a hard practice to do, but you have to admit your mistakes consistently. And so we have more information, we have more dirt on everybody. So maybe what we need is the person that will unabashedly be imperfect, you know, um, and just own up to this, even while they're in power. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I just fucked up. You know, here's how it is. Like, if we get a little bit of honesty from our leadership at all levels of life, like that could go a long way. Just a little
Mm.
bit of honesty, like, you know, it definitely isn't like Nancy Pelosi like pretending she can't hear somebody talk about like her husband's recent stock trades right before for chip companies. You can't. It's not that person. It's not her. I don't have a personal beef with her. I think
Yeah.
but or like I mean, it's all of Congress. Even Dan Crenshaw from the right stands out there. They're all doing that. They're not the ones. We need one person that not even one person, a group of people would be
Mm-hmm.
nice. Like a small group of people that we can, that will just fucking own it. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, that's what leaders are. They bring out the best in all of us, right? And, it's a little bit more difficult now with the excess of information, but a lot of things are like that. That's why, there's so much content out there, but you still can't find anything to watch.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing, but things still break through.
Mm-hmm.
And we can all get on some common, well, like Will Smith slapping the shit out of Chris Rock. Somehow, pretty much everybody knows about that. So, if we had a group of leaders that are willing to do the same thing, not slap the shit out of Chris Rock, obviously, but you know, just be responsible adults in the room, like a group of them, and that movement can grow and grow and grow, and then that can be the norm. We got ourselves into this situation. We can get ourselves out. Is it going to be easy? No. It's going to be fucking tough. It's going to be a long, arduous journey, but eventually you can turn the tide.
I think a lot. Another factor that makes this thing so difficult is just how big our country is. Compared to like other European countries. It's hard to find one guy or girl or non-binary to to rule over us. Essentially, that's tongue in cheek,
Yeah.
obviously, but like we're 350 million people deep. How big is freaking Norway or Spain?
So you're saying we need to be China and have more control over the people?
No, no. I just think
Keep them in line.
Keep them in
I
line.
like
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah. Don't step out of line.
Trace all their movements.
Well,
Like that in itself seems impossible, right? One person for 350 million people, like,
yeah.
oof. Like it's good that we're all united in that way, and I'm not saying like we should like fucking divide up the country, but like we have 50 states, a lot of people think like libertarians would agree with me by saying, obviously smaller governments better. Like, so does it make sense for us to like dissolve the federal government and just go straight to state governments? And now are we back to like European country type style? Like, how does that even like, but then you have like the states that barely have like a positive GDP, or like you have California, who's like arguably the powerhouse of United States in terms of economy wise, and then like New York, and
There's some of
so
the
just,
poorest
that
states.
seems like a bad idea too. So it's like
Yeah.
we find ourselves in between a rock and a hard
Well,
place, right?
I think education would be super right now, because that'll at least give us a framework for what I'm about to say. There's a reason that we have a federalist like republic,
Mhm.
and we get it's a little bit different now that interstate commerce and everything is more accessible, and especially with the internet even more so. So it's blurred the lines, and I think our system has had trouble adapting. But so there's state government that deals with the smaller scale stuff, and then the federal government is only supposed to come in like in matters that affect interstate, or that affect other states.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit more difficult. I think we need to like kind of reassess what we're doing. I don't think necessarily small governments the answer, or big government. Smart government is really where we got to go, and that's where the education piece comes in. I think we could have a federal society, in theory, but it'd be a little bit difficult now that like we can get from one side of the country to the other in like 2 days, 3 days. It's that was a game changer. So what we need more is responsible governance,
Yeah.
than anything, like personal accountability as well.
Could you go the other way and be like, do we need a global government? Taking federal government to the next level. Now we have unification of leaders
Wait.
that elect one person to rule us all.
Like a United Nations?
Yeah, but not everybody participates in that.
No, you see, I would think more of a League of Nations. That
Ooh.
hasn't ever been tried before.
Sounds better than United.
Where we could work through our, there's a back smoky room full. Oh, wait. The Illuminati?
That's the answer the whole time. Holy shit, they were right.
Do you think if we do have like nukes flying across the seas, does that just squash the whole idea of the Illuminati? Because don't you think that they would have just made that shit go away?
I don't know. You'd have to ask that one Bond villain motherfucker that wants the Great Recess. Who's that guy? The World Economic Forum.
Yeah.
The head of the head of that. Maybe ask him. But I think there are, absolutely like groups of well-connected people that are trying to control things, but they don't control all the things because you have each of those in each country. So. Yeah.
I just need somebody. We
tough.
need a group of people that operate behind the scenes that has dirt on everybody that can just maintain the peace.
CIA.
Well, we did, and then Epstein died.
That was it. That was the glue that held us all together.
Yeah, as soon as he got fuck.
Oh man.
Oh.
We just solved it.
Yeah.
We need another Epstein.
Ever since then, things have been bad.
All jokes aside, the real problem is the people that want to be leaders aren't the people that should be leaders. Yeah. Like the people that like strive for power and control, they're not the ones. So we're in a rock and a hard place.
Do you want to be a leader, Tom? You want to run for president?
Fuck, I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of responsibility. Maybe if I had a good brain trust behind me, I would consider something like that. But I mean, it's just not feasible right now because I don't have the platform, and
We're starting it right now. You can throw out your bid right on this very
right.
podcast.
Say something very controversial, and it'll get it going.
Yeah, we can get it viral.
Something that
We
no
get
one
some
else has said yet.
momentum.
But don't get us canceled, though.
Yeah.
Gay Bikers for Jesus is the only way forward.
All right, there you go, folks.
That's it.
This is our
That's
next
the
president.
unifying factor. So yes, to all you people out there, I will be making a bid for the presidency in 2024. Vote
Perfect.
Kramer.
Vote Kramer. I love it. I think we should end on that. That seems like very that's
good
perfect.
end cap for
Yeah.
this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually you do ask any like words of wisdom or anything.
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty good.
That covered the bases, I think.
This was a wild journey, but I'm glad we went on it.
Yeah, same. Thanks for being on, man. Really glad to know more about you and to hear a little more about your story, what you've been going through in the past years. And I hope everything kind of your trajectory is up. So I hope you continue on that.
Yeah, I'd be glad if I could maintain that. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it my damnedest. So
Perfect.
fuck yeah.
We'll have you back on soon, man, because this was great. We had a great time and speak for both of us. It's like conversations like these is what gets me like excited to keep doing these episodes and whatnot. So
Yeah, I don't even know what we talked about, but we did it.
yeah, well, it's
all
good
blur.
because now
That's
it's gonna
it.
be
That's good
online.
podcasting, I think. Just
Yeah.
conversate. Hey, I can't remember the last time I just straight up didn't look at my phone or watch in hours. So
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's
get lost in the moment. You never know what'll happen.
yeah.
For sure.
Awesome. On that note, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. Until next time, catch us on Spotify, YouTube, all the platforms. Maybe OnlyFans. I don't know.
One
Miles
day.
is still working on it.
I'll take that side of the business. I'll help you out with that.
All
Let's
right,
get weird.
fair enough.
Let's get weird.
All right, folks. Till next time. See ya. Bye.